This is the guidance and support film for the Chronology introduction lesson, where students will be asked to apply their understanding of chronology and to create a timeline. So, the marking criteria. What exactly are we looking for in this particular task? Let's go through. What you will be able to do is either incorporate these things into your work or be able to assess your own work according to whether you have included these. Does your work come with a title? Is there an explanation on the work to explain what it is that you are showing here in this homework? Is the homework neatly and clearly presented? Have you checked your work for literacy? Does the work make grammatical sense? Are you using capital letters for names and proper nouns? Have you actually got the events in the correct chronological order? Have you gone to the trouble to include BC and AD events in your timeline? Have you identified how many years fall between each of the events, turning the years into numbers, the numbers into sums to figure out the difference in time between the events? Have you included any extra events to further consolidate your learning, or have you only done the minimum of what was asked of you? Is the way in which you've presented your work clear? Is the layout appropriate? Would someone looking at your work who didn't understand chronology understand the sequence correctly? Have you attempted a scale, or have you simply put the events in chronological order? Are they set out proportionately to how much time actually passed in between them? Have you provided an explanation for each event? If you have provided an explanation, where has that information come from? In history, we call this referencing our work. Now let's go through and look at a couple of the examples and do a critique of each of them and say what's good. So in our first example here, we don't have an explanation. We have a very brief title here at the top. The work is well presented, it's clear, and it's numbered so we understand the correct sequence. We have an attempt at a scale made here. No extra events included, and none of these dates go before the year 0. So we're only dealing with the events that we've been given. All of them are AD. Our next example. Plenty of explanation provided on each of the events. No attempt made to tell me where that information comes from. We have an interesting way of setting out our work here. We have it in the correct order on a timeline. We also have it numbered in sequence. And if we do that, we can actually see that an attempt has also been made at a scale here. So the student's clearly going beyond the minimum that was expected of them. But we've got no extra events, no BC events, and no referencing of where this comprehensive knowledge came from. So good, but we can always strive to make this better. Our next example doesn't appear to be a scale, but we have a very clearly set out sequence here. Arrows indicating, numbers providing us with a sequence, and the key here to explain things more clearly. No explanation of each of the events, no additional events actually provided, no explanation of what the task actually was here. So again, it's a good piece of work. There's plenty of examples of what went well, but in order to improve, there's our checklist of things that we can work through to turn good into out. We have our final example here. We have an attempt made at a scale, and the student has rather cleverly fitted all the information in onto one page by going further and deeper into the page and closer to the timeline at other places. A brief explanation for each event, but no evidence of where that information came from, and again we have no additional events provided. So we only have a chronological understanding here of events that happened after the year 0. Please use these examples to see what is good. but also please use the checklist to identify what you could do better. If it's easy, you're not doing it well enough. If there isn't a challenge involved, you are not pushing yourself as hard as you could.